Today, we're diving into one of the wildest corporate cyber attacks ever. I'm talking about the 2014 Sony Pictures hack. It was a massive digital takedown, and you're not going to believe what sparked it. A Hollywood comedy. Seriously. Yeah, that's the big question here, right? How on earth did a comedy film, a spoof, really, end up bringing a massive movie studio, a global powerhouse, completely to its knees? So let's go back to 2014. Sony Pictures is about to release this movie, The Interview. You might remember it. It was a comedy about a fictional plot to assassinate the leader of North Korea. Well, apparently, not everyone thought it was funny. What followed wasn't just some kid in a basement hacking for fun. This was a devastating nation-state level cyber attack, allegedly in retaliation for that film. This was a message, and it was sent loud and clear. Okay, so how did this all go down? I mean, how did they actually pull it off? Before we get to the chaos and the aftermath, we've got to break down the digital heist itself. Let's look at the anatomy of this thing. All right, the main weapon here was malware. You've heard the term, right? Malware, malicious software. Think of it as the attacker's digital crowbar. It's software built to do one thing: break into a system, cause a ton of damage, and steal whatever isn't nailed down. And for Sony, this little piece of code was basically the key that unlocked their entire digital kingdom. The whole attack followed this kind of classic three-step playbook. First, they got their malware inside, just getting a foot in the door of Sony's network. Then, once they were in, they started to move laterally. It sounds technical, but just picture them roaming freely through Sony's internal systems, opening any door they wanted. And finally, step 3. They started sucking out the data. We're talking huge amounts of confidential info just vacuumed right out. So you're probably wondering, how was this even possible? Well, it turns out there were a couple of huge security gaps. First, they had really weak network segmentation. The best way to think about this is to imagine their whole network was like a giant house with no internal walls or locked doors. Once the bad guys got in the front door, they could just wander into any room they wanted: HR, finance, legal, you name it. On top of that, they had poor endpoint protection. That means all the individual computers, the laptops and desktops everyone used, were like unlocked windows all over that house. It was a recipe for disaster. But, getting hacked is one thing. The fallout, that was something else entirely. The real-world damage was absolutely catastrophic. Let's really get into the cost of this breach, because it wasn't just about money. So, what exactly did they take? Oh man, it was the whole treasure chest. We're talking about unreleased movies just dumped onto the internet. We're talking about incredibly embarrassing, super confidential emails from top executives being leaked for everyone to see. And even worse, they stole sensitive employee data, social security numbers, salaries, the works, not to mention tons of valuable intellectual property. And the attack didn't just steal stuff, it paralyzed the entire company. It was a massive operational disruption. Their whole computer network was wiped clean. Just imagine that. A massive, multi-billion-dollar Hollywood studio was suddenly forced to operate like it was 1985, using pen, paper, and whiteboards to get anything done. The cost to fix all that, to rebuild everything from scratch, it was just astronomical. But the money, as huge as it was, might not have even been the worst part. We have to talk about the severe, long-term damage to their reputation. Those leaked emails? A total PR nightmare. It completely shattered the trust they had with A-list actors, with their business partners, with everybody. And of course, when you leak that much sensitive information, you're just begging for a mountain of lawsuits. So once the dust finally started to settle, what's the takeaway? What did we all learn from this mess? Well, the Sony hack basically became this giant, painful, and very public lesson in cybersecurity. In a way, it created a whole new playbook for how companies need to protect themselves today. And that playbook really comes down to 4 essential defenses. First, you have to analyze every single incident. Don't just slap a bandage on it. Figure out how you got cut in the first place. Second, segment your network. Build those internal walls we talked about, so one breach doesn't take down the whole house. Third, and this is a big one, you've got to fortify your people. Your employees can be your weakest link, so training them on things like phishing is absolutely crucial. And last, you have to be ready for malware. That means robust protection on every single computer and keeping it all up to date all the time. And really, when you boil it all down, the biggest lesson is this: security isn't just one thing. It's not a single product you can buy. It's a whole system of overlapping defenses. It's like having multiple locks on your door. One layer might get picked, but hopefully the next one will stop the bad guy. It's all about building a resilient system, not just trying to build an impenetrable wall. And that brings us to the big, kind of scary final thought, right? The Sony hack was a huge wake-up call for everyone back in 2014. But let's be real, the threats out there today are way more advanced. So when you look back at this whole story, you have to wonder, in a world where a comedy movie can spark a full-blown digital war, is any company, or really are any of us, truly safe?